right, we're now recording.
All right. Well, we don't have a chairperson at this time, so I will go ahead and call the meeting to order, and we can do our roll call. So actually, if you can just announce yourself and that you're present.
Andy Scares.
Craig Skinner.
Mitch Waldman.
Jeff Wilson.
Tamara Niles, City Attorney.
And Stephanie Carlisle, City Clerk.
Andrina Prado, Deputy City Clerk.
So we do have a quorum. We do have one member absent at this time. So we have minutes that need to be approved from October 7th of 2024. So I'll go ahead and everybody can vote on this, but I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of October 7th, 2024.
Move to accept as written.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Craig. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Minutes approved. All right. So right now we just have an oath and affirmation. This is just something that we give. We have two brand new members. So welcome to the Election Commission. It's not a board that meets very often. However, we are starting an endeavor to work on election procedures. And so we will probably be meeting more often now. And so welcome. We're very glad that you're here. So you want to just pass those out? And I could probably just read it in general. Or just have them sign. Look at it, just have them sign.
I think it's fine to have them sign.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. We're gonna, Robert was reappointed, so we'll have him sign when he gets back. So that's just your oath or affirmation that you will perform the duties as regular members of the Election Commission. And it's one copy for us and then
Still needs information on the back.
yeah, the information on the back. And there'll be a training, I believe Jackie sent that out. Jackie McKinnon's our other deputy city clerk, which you've probably been corresponding with, but she's out of town.
Okay.
Make sure.
Thank you for not making us watch that 10-minute video again.
Everybody does it on their own time now.
Okay.
But you're welcome. Amazing, thank you guys.
Sure we did it right.
Yes.
So we screw up our first task.
Looks great, thank you so much. All right, well, I was hoping that Robert could get here, but this is when we do need to nominate and select who the chairperson of the commission will be. So I don't know if there's anybody who wants to nominate somebody or volunteer.
Want it? I'll nominate him.
I'm happy to chair if it's helpful,
Can I
but
nominate Andy for chairman?
Great. No one's gonna fight me for it, come on.
Any other nominations? All right, so all in favor of selecting Andy as the chairperson of the Election Commission?
Aye.
Should I vote for myself? I don't know.
Yes, you can vote.
Aye, yay. All right.
Great.
Congratulations.
Oh, yeah. Where's my sash and
It's one
crown?
thing to campaign, it's another thing to govern.
Gavel. Big hammer.
This is where we have citizens forum, and we do not have any citizens who have shown up to provide comment. So we did kind of move items around. Typically, we do an orientation first, but we do have, a guest this evening and wanted to just dive into some of the discussion items first. And then at the end, we'll kind of hit some of the orientation materials that I've provided for you. So I'll kind of turn it over to our city attorney, Tamara Niles.
Okay, I'll give some background first and then do some tag team. We pay outside counsel in 6-minute increments. So usually when we are paying outside counsel to attend any meeting, they get to go first. So 1 minute. And then we will probably leave as soon as we're done to 6-minute increments.
She means go out the door first.
So in my opinion, this is the most important thing that the Elections Commission has done since I started as city attorney in 2021. And the background on this, we received, we've had, since 2021, since I've been the city attorney, we've had recalls, we've had initiatives, we've had referendums. And so during that process, we discovered a couple of issues, that the laws applicable to all of those things were in 3 different locations. They were in statute, they were in charter, and they were in municipal code. And when citizens would come in and want to start that process, we would say, well, you need to read statute, charter, and municipal code. It was hard for people to follow it and to understand what the rules were. So we quickly discovered that we needed all of those rules in one location that people can read and understand. We also discovered that there are large gaps in those legal sources that lay out the requirements, which means that it happened regularly that Stephanie and I were like, well, what do you think we should do here? I don't know. What do other cities do here? I'm not sure. And then we would just try to create consistency, but it felt a little bit like we were making it up as it went along because the city had never faced any of these issues. And I don't know what it was in 21, maybe some COVID issues, but suddenly our citizens were very active on these petitioning processes. So every time we thought we would start this project, we had another recall and we had to drop everything. There's another special election, we drop everything and work on that. And so Jeff is a recognized expert in the field in elections law in the state of Colorado, has a long history of doing similar projects for other cities, as well as working for the Colorado League and the State House. So he's been at this for a long time. So when we found out he had done this same project for other cities, we asked him to come in and work on creating a comprehensive process for us as well. For the most part, this is what the laws already are, or what we have already done in exercising our discretion. But there's, I think, a measure of safety and clarity by putting it all in writing in one place. So, and the things that aren't the same, that are different, we will highlight those in this presentation. Did I miss anything?
No, that's great.
Okay.
I'll just say that I've done this project started in Aurora, where they had an initiated home rule charter amendment for a strong mayor form of government. You may have heard about that. And it turned into a royal mess because there are all these different conflicting local and state procedures and nobody knew where to find them. And everybody was here. I had less hair to pull out, but it resulted in a process to create a uniform petitioning process. One place, as Tamara was talking about, where you can find all the rules. The main group that benefits from this project are the citizens whose powers we're talking about after all. Okay.
Yeah. And your role in this is under our charter. It states that if City Council considers any regulations regarding elections, it will first come to this body to review and make recommendations to City Council. So you are seeing this before City Council has. This was our first step. So what we anticipate from here is we will take your comments and then give a similar presentation to City Council, get their comments, and then bring an ordinance. I believe we did in your packet include the draft ordinance that we're working on so far. I think I hit all these slides. My assistant is really good at PowerPoint, and I don't even know what order she puts them in. I just give her the content. So the proposed code updates are to create a separate code section or chapter for each of our citizen reserved powers, which are power of recall, which is to remove a sitting council member, initiative, which is to create new law, referendum, which is to challenge a law adopted by City Council. We also address specifically charter amendment initiatives. We've seen those recently, more of an uptick in those. That's why we now have a direct elect mayor. That was a citizen initiative. And then in chapter 15, it provides consistent rules for all of them. We've tried to keep the same rules for every single one so that A, it's easier for citizens to understand, B, it's easier for staff to follow and enforce. So we have incorporated all of the language of charter and combined different sections of municipal code, and then also brought in statute. But the goal is really predominantly, as Jeff said, to make this easier for citizens to understand and follow. All right, the proposed petitioning process. I feel like I'm dominating this.
No, go ahead.
It was my staff that created the PowerPoint. When it's your idea, generally it's your responsibility. So the petitioning process, we created a standard petitioning process for all the reserved powers. And then a single place that doesn't require reference back to state law that may change based on whether it's a statutory city. And then we provided that standard process to fill gaps to provide certainty in the process.
And the point about superseding state law is useful because our pals down at the Capitol are changing stuff constantly. And Englewood citizens can't keep up. We can't hardly keep up. And one thing that you can do if you're a home rule city is figure out what you want to do and develop some rules, and then they can screw around down there at the Capitol all they want, and you've got predictability. So that's part of the program here. It's not struck in stone. It's an ordinance. You can amend it any time, but you're not in the winds of, whatever the statutory changes are.
Yes.
So it's a higher authority than state law.
Depends on who you ask.
One of the areas where home rule city authority has been preserved pretty well is in the area of elections. And particularly with respect to initiative and referendum, the Constitution specifically says that the manner of exercise of the initiative and referendum shall be defined by the municipality. And that law applies not just to home rule municipalities like Englewood, but to statutory jurisdictions as well. So local authority in the area of initiative and referendum is very strong. Thank goodness.
And in case you aren't familiar with the differences between statutory city and home rule city, we're a home rule city, which means we get to make our own laws.
Right.
Statutory cities are at the mercy of the state legislature, and they have to follow the rules of the state.
Thank you, Jim. Right.
Yes, we adopted our first charter in 1958. That's when we created our first set of laws.
And statutory cities, basically it defaults. I mean, if they don't choose to be a home rule, they're automatically a statutory city.
Correct.
And how many of them are there? I mean, is it a majority, a minority?
Well, there are about 120 home rule cities out of 221. I used to know this stuff at the municipal league.
That's right, though. I think that's.
Is that right?
I think it's about.
Yeah, it's like 50-50 roughly-ish, a little more lean towards home rule, I think.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah,
Denver's
I mean,
home
once
rule,
the
that's
city
right.
gets to a certain size, it instantly need a professional manager. It gets to be, there's too much going on. And cities at that point tend to go to home rule. Adopt the council manager form of government, which is a professional manager runs the staff, and then to adopt a home rule charter so that they can make more decisions locally instead of having the legislature do it for them. I have a strong bias. Full disclosure, I worked at the municipal league for years. I'm a total local control partisan.
I'm tempted to talk about land use and how land use has always been traditionally the purview of home rule cities.
Not
but-
lately.
Boy,
Right.
don't start me.
I know. So that's a discussion for another day. Watch city council meetings if you want a robust debate on that. City council's pretty frustrated with that. but-
Yeah. Most of my clients right now, you can fry an egg on their head about land use, but we digress.
So now we'll jump into the actual meat of what we're proposing to adopt in a petitioning code that's in front of you. First, we discussed internally, the three of us, we're heavily involved in the drafting of what's in front of you, that the city clerk would provide template documents for people in these petitioning processes. We don't have to do that, but we think it makes it easier for people to complete the process, and it ensures that it's in a legally appropriate form. So I think it will encourage people to use these citizen reserve powers.
I'll just say, with petitioning, if you don't provide that type of guidance as in a template, there's a lot of back and forth. An average citizen doesn't know the law of what's required on those petitions. And when something is filed, time is of the essence, and there's not a lot of time, and you don't want to get in the way of going back and forth to get it right. So really, the philosophy, there's two philosophies, and I have really felt strongly that, just providing that template kind of eases the burden on the citizens who are trying to file something.
Yeah, because they always get it right in the end. Even if you don't have this kind of system, you have the system where the proponents have to keep beating their head against the wall to get all the details right. Eventually they get it right, but everybody's going crazy and it's a ridiculous exercise. Better to just hand out the form and away you go. So,
Fill in the blank and
That's
return
right.
it. Oh, I think we have some. Okay. I've only seen this in a PDF, so I didn't know what we have happening here. Okay,
Oh, I see.
so my assistant made a very robust flow chart that in a minute this will be full. But we attempted to provide a key that would walk people through the process of what we're proposing. So first, the underlying question, can a recall be filed? Then have they served at least 6 months? Then if they haven't, no. Are they up for a re-election within the next 6 months? Then no, they're not. And this is what our current code is. This is what the current law is. Has a recall petition already been filed against them? Then no, they can't be recalled again. Unless, I did ask that this be put on there, unless the recall petition is signed by at least half of all ballots cast. So somebody would have to do something very, very bad in office. So they could potentially face a second recall, but it would have to be something pretty significant to have that type of support for it. And then we've laid out specifically, and again, this is what's already required, as to what's required to initiate a recall. They have to file a notarized affidavit with the city clerk stating the reasons for the recall, and we limited that to 200 words. Then provided the signature requirements. It must be at least greater than or equal to 25% of the votes cast in the last election for that office. And then the clerk reviews the petition for sufficiency. And then we provide, that's the same standard that we propose for every single one of these petitioning processes, and that will be in a later chapter. Then we provided clear timelines on this. That was something that was a little vague as to what the timeline and requirements are and how these notices are provided. So, and then we've included specifically that the officer, the person sought to be recalled, may file a defense statement with the city clerk and request its inclusion in the petition. This was something that was a gray area that we kind of muddled, I hate to say muddled through. We had to create our own process, and it's just, we would prefer that everybody knows what the process is.
The worst time to be creating procedures or processes is in the midst of that. That is not best practices, and we want to make sure that that's established well in advance of being in the middle of it.
Yes. Then the recall petition, once it's all been finalized, then the circulators take it around and get the petition signatures. And they have 60 days to do that. And I believe that's in current code as well.
Yes, all this stuff's, and you'll see, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no.
As Tamara goes through the rest of the reserve powers, recall, initiative, referendum, and home rule charter amendments, you'll notice that each section that addresses each reserve power in the ordinance has the same structure itself. Each one says how you start the process. Each one says how many signatures you need. Each one says how long you have to circulate the petition after approval by the clerk. So you'll see the same sort of in green, the process will be sort of the same as to each one.
The clerk's office always prepares a really good informational sheet for everyone that is starting this process. This is how many signatures you need and that sort of information. That process won't change. Then if the petition is valid, then the city council schedules a recall election within 60 to 120 days after filing. And that's what the current law is as well.
Does there have to be some kind of justification, or can be at a whim?
It can be at a whim. Mhm.
Do you have any editability of what they submit in terms of the justification and the pro or?
There's case law in which folks have tried to object, saying that's a damn lie and stuff. And the courts have said that the judge of somebody's recall are the voters. So hence the saying you can get recalled for having red hair.
Yeah, I know, like in Denver, I know at least in like pro and con statements and stuff, we can make edits to them based on factual like things. So I wasn't sure if someone like,
Oh, I see what
they
you're
are Satan incarnate and they have stolen from their grandma, like, and if it's completely made up sort of factual information, if it puts sort of you all at risk for publishing that on a legal document.
So we rely solely on what the petition says,
Okay.
but this is why we have that process where the the sitting official can respond. And they can file a 200-word statement in response and request that it be included in the petition.
Yeah.
So that if people say, well, I think if somebody said that about me in writing, I think we might have to talk about a defamation lawsuit
Sure.
against them. And then, but our thought is it would be offset by the official saying that is blatantly false, whatever else they want to
Statement
say.
of defense, yeah.
On the petition itself.
Correct.
Mhm.
But the person
Yeah.
who's getting the signatures, they don't have to call people's attention to it or do that.
Well, it's in a packet and we'll get to that, but it's all in the petition packet. It all has to be on there. And the signature lines are attached to the packet. So if the person looks at it,
Which you should before you sign a petition.
But the person who's
Should.
out
Keyword.
yeah,
Yeah.
the person who's trying to get you to sign a petition, it's like, would you like to sign a
Yeah,
petition?
correct.
They're not gonna say, by the way, there's a con
Right.
against this
well, so
product.
it's funny you bring this up because this actually was an issue that we faced. And so we've addressed it in here, is that people were making false statements to get other people to sign. And so then we had a council member say, that needs to be illegal. So that's in here now, that it prohibits making false statements to solicit signatures. We also, when this happened, a lot of this is based on our real world experience. And when this happened, a citizen called and said, I want my signature off of that petition. But we didn't have a process for how to do that. So that's in there as well, as to when and how you can do that.
As long as I've worked, this is a good question you're asking, Dan, Andy, because as long as I've worked in this area with these statements from citizens, where you have to print the actual statement, unlike Tabor notices where you summarize the statement. These, you're supposed, and yeah, you know something's false, but it's also political speech.
Sure.
And the peril for us in the government is if we start editing political speech, we can get our hand in a wringer easy. So it's like, I think I'll just let the voters decide. Is what we do, is put it out there. But that's a really good question.
And then this also happened in Inglewood. We had someone resign when they were facing a recall, and so we've addressed that as well. That if they resign before the recall, then it's treated as a vacancy. But then, yes, we cancel the election and then we provide a process for how to do that, because that was also something when it happened, there's nothing that tells us what to do in this situation. So we wanted some sort of law that told staff, this is what you do when this happens. Okay, and so if there's a ballot petition, they don't resign, then we have the recall election. And this also happened that one of the targeted officials resigned, but not all. So we addressed what to do there as well. Most of this is things we've actually addressed and that we didn't know what to do. So we're asking you all in City Council to step in. So this was in the spreadsheet, but no recall if they're up for re-election within 6 months or if they haven't held office for at least 6 months. And then no second attempt unless they have that higher number of signatures. Any questions on recall before we move on?
I have one general question, and feel free to punt it to later. Is there also a tie into your campaign finance code revolving around like petition spending and what constitutes a committee now that you're changing this just in the citing?
We haven't addressed that in this, but that's a project that we're also working on separately. That, I don't think that one will come to Election Commission because it's campaign finance. But we're happy to share those materials with you.
It's fine. I worked for the clerk in Denver, and I have been through that process where elections updates their side of the code and they don't tell us, and campaign finance side, and then I have to go back in front of council and update all the citing and the numbering and all the fun. So just was flagging that of all the fun that you're working on.
Yes, so we are working with the clerk's office on it. So hopefully we do a better job of keeping them in the loop. I know actually my assistant city attorney just spoke to someone in the, I think Denver City Attorney's
Yeah,
office
eventually,
today.
yeah.
Okay, then initiative and referendum. Initiative is when you create laws, referendum is when you challenge a law that city council has adopted. So it's basically the same process. How you start one, they have to file the notice with the city clerk, and the full text of a proposed initiative or ordinance to be reconsidered.
Let me just say something right there on the full text requirement. Something that Fort Collins has run into, and Aurora as well, and some other city I've been working with. Usually initiatives are 4 or 5 pages long, but you can have a referendum where somebody objects to a council act where the council, like in Fort Collins, they had a referendum 3 different times on their entire land use code. You know, so if you have to attach the full text to the petition section, they're standing outside King Soopers with something that looks like a book. So what these jurisdictions have provided, what we're suggesting in here, is that the full text is attached. But if the full text exceeds 5 pages in a referendum, then a summary of the ordinance developed by the clerk and the attorney can substitute for the text. There's all sorts of different approaches. In Fort Collins, they had a requirement that the appendices it wasn't just that the ordinance was this thick, then there was 300 pages of appendices, and that had to be readily available wherever you were circulating the petition. So it was a royal pain, and we've got an amendment in here to try and
I
take
think even
care of that.
attaching an ordinance that's, there's a referendum on, an ordinance is typically 2 pages. So when we're talking about a petition, you want somebody to see what they are signing. And when it's cumbersome, it makes it challenging. And we did have that come up where we had to put the entire ordinance text into the petition. And it just made it long and difficult.
It has a chilling effect if to read 7 pages. People aren't going to do it if,
Yeah, that's
they're just
right.
not going to do it. It's going to have a chilling effect for sure.
So this number 2 is another issue that we faced where somebody wanted to start an initiative, but I could never understand the language. It was never clear to me, and we didn't have a basis to challenge it or to work with them to provide clarity. And so I just continued to email the person back and forth, like, is this what you mean? Oh no, that language, well, that would have this effect. Is that what you mean? And so we wanted a process that would really give us authority to engage in that back and forth. So it now includes that you are required to send it to my office, and then we have 5 days to suggest clarification or feedback. Because especially when it's a group of citizens that maybe haven't sought legal advice on how to word things, they may have an unintended impact. And that's the person I was working with on this initiative. They ended up not bringing it, but I was like, that would actually mean this in the city. Is that what you intended? So this really gives us a basis to engage in that interactive feedback.
Which formalizes a common practice already. In my experience, you can go to the proponents and say, forget whether I support or object to your substantive proposal. If the people adopt it, we have to implement it. We have a mutual interest in something being adopted that is workable at least. And so this formula, what Tamara's talking about, puts that in writing, which is a great idea.
Okay, then we lay out the initiative process here. Again, this is all what current code is. And then the referendum process, very similar.
One difference between the local initiative and referendum and the state process, if you're familiar with it, is the state process for after petition sufficient, it goes right to the voters. Here, if the petition sufficient, it goes to the council, and the council can adopt the ordinance or repeal the ordinance objected to in a referendum and obviate the need of the taxpayers to pay for an election, which is also a nifty dimension of the local process.
Denver does not do that.
Yeah.
Straight to the ballot.
Denver does not do that.
Yes. Yeah, but as it says, they can adopt the ordinance as is. Our council, to my knowledge, has never done that either.
Is that right? Yeah.
Additional
I'm not
step.
giving our council any ideas.
Well, and frankly, if it was something they supported, they probably would have done it without the need for them to circulate a petition and bring it formally. Then we publish it. Then council may refer the question to voters by resolution without a petition. And then, of course, if the majority of citizens vote yes, the ordinance takes effect. If they vote no, the ordinance is repealed on a referendum. Then we also specifically addressed if there's conflicting ordinances approved at the same election, then whichever one gets the most votes is the one that becomes law. Okay, and then this is just maybe an easier way, less data. We tried to provide a very comprehensive flow chart that we can include in a manual, because once it's adopted, we anticipate we'll summarize it for voters or for any circulators. And so this is just a much easier way to see it. Any questions on that before we move on to the next one? Okay.
One general question, do you have circulator requirements in here? I did not see them, but I may have missed it because it was pretty meaty.
I think they have to
Yes.
be over 18.
Yeah, our circulator affidavit is 18 and
They do not have to be a resident of the city. That was a matter of law. So you
Yeah.
can't, we did have that in our code and we determined that was no longer enforceable.
They don't have to live here and they
and
get
only
paid to
only
circulate.
one circulator per petition section.
Okay.
But I can't recall, is that in
I
this
don't remember if it's in
code
here.
section? We may have that in another code
Okay,
section
yeah.
that's not being addressed here. Because if it, I subscribe to, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if we had code sections that we didn't have to touch, we just are leaving it as is. I think the less we change things or repeal and readopt, it just seems like our citizens seem to trust that more.
Out of curiosity, do you have circulator regulations?
It was less about, I think we follow the same sort of guideline because it's pretty, they're paid, but just making sure if you're sort of condensing it into one section that it's easily findable if it is not completely in a whole other section for folks to track down for your sanity's sakes more than folks.
So now you've seen this process 2 other times, and we've tried to follow it as much the same as possible. You have to file a statement of intent, and then
There's just slightly different requirements
Mhm.
when it's a charter initiative.
so these are already the requirements, so we've just put it all in one place.
One thing that's interesting here, the fact I find it interesting illustrates my level of deterioration, okay? But one of the cool things here in Englewood is that everybody had, in state law, under the charter amendment process, if you get 5% of the registered electors, I think it is, you can have your petition heard at a regular election. If you get 10%, however, you can request a special election date. And of course, that's part of the process here in our charter amendment initiative, but it's also that way for initiative and regular initiatives and referendum here in Englewood. So that, anyway, I'm a geek on this stuff. I've never seen that in any other city, that 5 and 10
Yeah, we don't allow it.
special election thing for initiative. Usually it's, it says if you have to go to a regular election, or if there isn't a regular election within a certain window, you have to go to a special. But in their charter, in your charter, I should say, it says right in there, you can do it anytime. So anyway,
Well-
Is the special at the cost of them or is it at the cost of the city?
city,
Oh,
we pay.
Yeah. Although that could be a good proposal.
In Denver, the one deviation is like, example, like, oh, you can be in the primary ballot or in the general depending, but if you want a special, you can, we're dealing with that with the Excel franchise. We gave them the option of you could put it on the ballot, but you got to pay for the whole thing.
Is that right?
And they said, no, thank you, very quickly when they got the bill. That may be something you may want to consider. Has it happened recently? Because that's got to be a big cost for you all for something that is.
We are having a special election for the council member.
Right, but.
The last few we've had has been timed to be on the
Okay.
general.
And we encourage people to, like, if you hold this for 2 weeks, then we could just put it on the ballot and you'll probably get a better turnout.
Just
And
the amount of signatures that you need to do it as a special election too is a deterrent, I think, as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
but our citywide special election is about 120,000. Is that right? The last time we looked at it?
A
So,
citywide.
I mean, it's not, I'm sure it's far less than what Denver would be, but still, for a city our size, it's not insignificant.
Put that on your charter committee list.
I will testify.
So chapter 15 is where we put all of the rules applicable to all of them, and provide the petition setup, ballot language, and how the ballot language is finalized. This is a substantive change to our current code. Our current code is that the people circulate their petitions, and then at the very end, when city council has it in front of them, then they decide what the actual ballot question will be. City council does. And then we often don't have enough time then for them to adopt an ordinance, which has to have 2 readings and then 30 days, and then have the election. And so I'm probably jumping the gun because this slide doesn't say this. What we're proposing is that the setting the ballot question occurs at the beginning of the process, so that actual ballot question is on the petition. We had, it's basically Stephanie and I consulting with some council members and coming up with 5 different options for a ballot question that we then put in legislation. City council debates it. The petitioners threaten to sue us if we don't give them the one that they want.
Yep.
And we're on a very tight timeline because we need to set that election so that we can sometimes sign an IGA for Arapahoe County to run the election for us. It can be a really tight process. So we have a council member that used to work at the Secretary of State's office and worked with us to develop some language so that it's at the beginning, not the end. And it's a committee of 3 that decides the ballot question, which is clerk's designee, city attorney's designee, and then an elections expert.
Oh.
This is what I envision right now.
What are you thinking of?
And then they take it, set the ballot question, and then the proponents have the opportunity to appeal it and to finalize the language, so that we don't, at the very end, risk a lawsuit that could set aside all this work that they did and the citizens vote. Right, and try to do it at the beginning instead of the end. And we feel like that's the best practice, but it is a substantive change.
The title challenge, like Tamara's saying, creates a potent weapon for a petition opponent, all out of scale to what political support they may enjoy in the community, to just throw sand in the gears at the 11th and a half hour. So instead we move the title setting up to the beginning of the process. It sort of goes along in parallel, but it gets all resolved by the time the petition comes back in. So we're ready to go. So, yeah.
Well, and we've seen, I think some ballot questions, you've probably seen them, have been definitely skewed toward approving, like, shall the city of Inglewood finally enter the 20th century and have a directly elected mayor? I mean, that's not what it said, but it was very much, you could advocating for approval. And so we were looking for a more, yes.
That's what I was going to ask,
Just
if that was part of that process, was getting more like the objective, plain language
Right.
review as part of that.
Yes.
Yes.
And then in the last resolution we had where city council adopted the language for this last charter initiative, I mean, that we included in there what the proponents wanted, and it was just very much advocating for it. And I think city council landed somewhere in between, but we tried to work with quite a few different options. So this would completely take council out of the process with the goal of making it non-political.
It's another thing where earlier Tamara's talking about building into the process, working with the proponents to make sure the proposal is workable. So hopefully, 95% of the cases, you've got a dialogue and a relationship with these people. So when it comes time to set the ballot title, you can tell them, look, we can't do an advocacy piece here. This has to be objective. Now,
And-
if you've got suggestions that are how to be objective, fine, but don't ask us to put normative adjectives in the ballot title.
Yes, and that's why we actually provided a standard to what the ballot title must or cannot do. And that's what's listed here in that middle green box. That it can't, be confusing or misleading. And so we looked at some other cities, I believe, and took language from other cities that have done this well. And then, of course, we provide a protest process. We definitely want to give people due process, but we also want to make sure that when they spend the time circulating petitions and getting all these signatures, that it's not, it doesn't fail because of a ballot title that was challenged or something like that. So this all occurs before. Then the circulation and signature. So it has to be circulated in sections, and this is all what law currently is, what has to be contained within a petition section. We did have a challenge for petitions and petition signatures. The clerks, as soon as we get a petition back, they go through each signature and they make sure it complies. But we didn't have clear guidance on exactly what is a valid signature and what's not. And so we used the Secretary of State's guidance when we were making those determinations. And this, I think we chose to codify exactly what the Secretary of State does, using their standards as to what's a valid signature and what's not.
It's not the signatures specifically, it's the information, the voter information.
Correct.
Then again, I already previewed that. We provide for exactly when signatures can be withdrawn and how it occurs, because we don't currently have anything like that. I believe when this did happen, I think we decided that it could be withdrawn because the sufficiency hadn't been completed yet.
So that we might need to clarify this, but it was, and this is through the Secretary of State's office, is that they can withdraw prior to it being filed. So not even before sufficiency, it needed to be withdrawn prior to the
Just
petition.
turning it in,
Turning it in.
to you initially.
Mhm.
I mean, we can do,
We can
Glory of home
kind
rule.
of finesse
We can do
that,
whatever
but
we
that's
want.
what we did move forward with this
Okay.
last go. So something to consider.
okay,
I think,
I mean, you can do either, again.
Does that create a burden for you though, to have to wait until it's turned in and then track down the signature and strike it versus having it physically in the building and going right to finding their signature? Would it make more sense for your sanity if it was?
I mean, I could see it go either way. Because even before it, we have to keep track of it. So like you said, we have to keep track of who's withdrawn and then it turns in. So we could just keep it as is, like you said, for sufficiency. Because if we're in the middle of, verifying, that we would have it there to pull it out. So.
And one thing we discussed internally is that by providing a specific process to do this, people that don't support the initiative or the petition, they could all sign it so that the people think they have enough signatures, and then they could notify the clerk of withdrawal. I mean, that was something we were concerned about. You would hope people wouldn't do that, but I think that's just something that the petitioners will have to be aware of and ensure that they get plenty of signatures across a broad range of groups to minimize that possibility.
Next time I need a PowerPoint done, your assistant.
She's amazing.
These are incredible.
She's upped our game in the city attorney's
Wow.
office. Yes. Now she's being requested from other departments, but, and then we provide a clear process for the clerk to determine what is disqualified. And this is what current law is as well. Then there is a protest process. We do currently have a protest process as well, and we went through it. In that one, it was eventually, they were unable to correct the signatures, I think, in that protest process. So it didn't go forward to a ballot. So we have gone through that, and again, it demonstrated that we needed some clarity in a few areas.
And recall that this is a uniform petitioning process, so this protest sufficiency, the initial determination, that's recall, initiative, referendum, home rule charter amendment, all the same. Not like now where you've got different deadlines and all kinds of stuff. This is much more straightforward.
And then-
Speaking of which, Kira.
And then we also wanted to provide process for people to cure a petition, how they do that, provide clarity on when a petition can be withdrawn, how much time they have to fix things in the petition, and that they can only do that one time. And then, of course, we provided exactly what hearing of a protest would entail. I think we had a lot of uncertainty when that happened. When we had a hearing, I wanted to get up and say some background on why the clerk was absolutely correct in rejecting the signatures, and the hearing officer said, no, you cannot. And yes, so we've.
Get a new hearing officer.
So, I mean, really, we just wanted a fair process for the
Sure.
people involved.
Well, and one of the issues here, if my memory serves, did we have the provision that the clerk had to be the hearing officer here?
I
No.
don't think we have that.
Some places
in
I work,
AD.
they have that, and it's important that you be able to not get an independent hearing officer. Otherwise, the clerk is presiding over the review of a decision he or she earlier made, which is,
That happened to Aurora.
yeah, that's right.
Over the
I've been
strong mayor one.
abundantly clear that that is not the best practice,
No,
that
and-
that needs to be referred out, yes.
Yeah. Because in that case, you might as well just go straight to a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Because I'm always going to say I was right the first time.
I
We don't
know.
need to revisit
I
it.
just did this, I just had a huge one in Lakewood, 3 different referendum petitions on 3 different huge ordinances. And their charter, I think it is, says that the clerk shall serve as the hearing officer. So, and boy, did the clerk feel a little uncomfortable.
We did have a few sections in code like that. In fact, we've been working on a comprehensive change to our hearings code. And where it said the clerk or the city attorney or the city manager, we've changed it to their designee.
There you go.
So, and then we have gone straight to an independent hearing officer model that we largely hire independent attorneys to preside over the hearings. So just to provide some fairness there.
Yeah, and in terms of your hearing officers, do you seek out hearing officers that have like specific elections jurisdiction or like understanding?
We do. So our process largely consists of us posting on our listservs. We need hearing officers. If you're interested, please let me know and tell me what your specific areas of expertise are. Like I think we have you on there as for elections. I think we had Karen Goldman. And so we do list general city matters and that's all, they're appointed through city council resolution.
There's something we should know about you.
Yeah.
I mean, now that, no,
Sure.
in Denver, we had some cases of, we now have some hearing officers that have some election expertise, but I presented to like someone that is hearing for parking magistrate tickets, and it was a hard sort of like shift from sort of parking to non-parking.
Elections is very
That may be, I
specific.
think who you may be,
No, that's- I
there's
see.
someone wandering around there. But it was like, but what do you mean you don't know how campaign finance works in Denver? They're like, I'm a parking magistrate, person, so I just to.
Interesting.
Yeah, we have had some experience with people that just don't know what the process is. Like every time they ask, so what's the burden of proof for the city? And who has the burden of proof? And can I hold this hearing virtually? That sort of thing. So we're doing kind of a similar project for hearings to a comprehensive code for clarity on that too. I think I'm bringing that to council March 2nd, actually. And that was requested by Mayor Pro Tem Joe Anderson. Clarity on that.
We had that problem with the state too. Remember when the FCPA complained, she used to all go up to Secretary of State. Sometimes she'd draw a hearing officer up there who didn't know jack about elections. So you're doing stuff like,
Makes it tough, makes it tough.
here's the burden of proof, and yeah, the FCPA is in 2 different places, Your Honor. Anyway,
Yeah, we're
So-
working on that one too.
yeah.
We're
Oh,
highlighting all
okay.
the projects in the city attorney's office. Okay, we also, just this last number 5, just walks through exactly what the final determination is and presenting it to council. We wanted to make it clear too that, let's say your petition fails this time, you can give it a go. It doesn't stop you from filing a new one for the same purpose. let's see, and then filing protests and then making it clear when court review is appropriate, because if you don't agree with the hearing officer, you certainly can file a court action. And the protests we had, they did file a court action, but it was dismissed for facial deficiencies, so it ended up not going anywhere. Okay, we already highlighted this a little bit, that really talks about what disqualifies somebody for signing a petition. We don't currently have this in code, but we looked up the Secretary of State standards and this aligns with theirs. So if you're signing a petition for a state initiative, it will be the same rejection standard as if you're signing a petition.
See, and the standards are presented much more obviously here in the ordinance than they are. You know, at the you can find this if you know how to look up the Secretary of State's election rules, which most people don't. So here, the person who's going to circulate a petition in Englewood will know ahead of time. This is kind of a guide to how to get your signatures. So I think this is very citizen friendly to present this in the ordinance.
That's our goal.
Yep.
And then specifically describe when signatures should be excluded, as well as when entire petition sections are invalid. And this is also what current law is, so that just incorporates that into our current code. And a section, for those of you that haven't done petitioning, it's a circulator will take a chunk of signature lines with the ordinance on top, and that's the petition section. It can't be taken apart. It has to be maintained intact, has to have an affidavit at the end. So we wanted to provide in one place a guide to those circulators as well. And this is really, I think, our current form for petition, but we thought you'd like to see what it is. It's legally compliant, and we're not proposing a change for that. All right, new provisions added. We wanted to highlight those. Again, it's when you can withdraw your signature, and it also makes the following practices unlawful. If you really falsely make statements to people, mislead them to get their signature, or if you knowingly violate any provision of chapter. This was a section specifically requested by a council member after we had the issue where the person said, I was misled. I wouldn't have signed it if I really knew what that was about. So what does it mean that we made it unlawful? It means that someone could get a ticket in municipal court for violating this. Okay. From here, we can do a couple of things. If you'd like to mull it over, we can come back. If you have changes or want to make recommendations to City Council, you can do that. But I don't want to rush this process. I know this is a huge ordinance that we gave you, and so I want to give you the time to look it over and give it meaningful review. But if this was enough and in the packet, I'm always in favor of efficiency, but I don't want to rush your process either.
Oh, Stephanie, I'll defer to you if you want to go next. Oh, I was just going to say, like Tamara said earlier, this whole project is more about consolidating existing law rather than making new law. I mean, we realize that this isn't a time of great trust in any institutions, including government, and we would have enough of a lift just to, moving all this stuff into one place and getting that done. The time for doing bold new, things is a separate bill from this. Tamara's laid out some of the modest things that we've done to make things easier here, but nothing is frankly revolutionary. Everything in here has many, many, many precedents and examples in all kinds of other home rule jurisdictions. So, one of the things I said to Councilmember Ward, who I know from working down at the Capitol and with the Secretaries of State, was if you can find anything in this ordinance that appears to alter significantly or diminish any powers presently held by citizens, please point it out, because I don't think it's in there. And if it is in there, we'll fix it, but it isn't in there. So I don't mean to lean too much in on that, but we figured that'd blow the credibility of this proposal. And so we want to be really explicit about it.
So if we approve, then you go to City Council, 2 hearings, citizen input, critiquing, everything else. So if there's anything that they find that you've written that might have a technical problem, it would be caught at council or in the 2 hearings.
Theoretically, in my experience, they're not afraid to tell us if they disagree with something we've proposed. So 2 hearings, though, is a little bit, we do what's called study session. So we give them this exact same presentation and the same draft. And we do that during the study session portion of a meeting where it's more interactive, just like this. And then we get their direction and feedback. Then we bring it back for action on a first reading. So there generally is not a hearing specifically for this.
Did you mean 2 readings?
2
2 readings,
Yeah, two
citizen
readings.
input, citizen critique, citizens having a copy and being able to read it before city council does their first vote.
Yes, it's publicly distributed at the study session and available on our website. And then the citizen input generally comes in the form of either emails, they'll speak at public comment, and they will speak directly to council members that they have a relationship to. So we get a lot of that feedback from council members.
This just went through all the other cities where I've done this. It has the very same course through council. You don't give council something like this that they've never seen before. It's like, oh my God. So that's why you have a work session to sort of demystify the thing and do like we did tonight. Explain all of what we're doing here. And that makes it a lot more straightforward when you get to first and second reading.
That's the goal anyway.
Yeah,
That's the goal, right?
I just wanted to commend you all on this because I've also dealt with this in my own code in Denver of like splitting stuff between, our Fair Elections Fund and our campaign finance were completely different. And I think centralizing it is really good. The one question I have is do you expect sort of companion rule generation based on this that also will be undertaken? Or do you think you sort of solved everything in the ordinance itself?
Our goal was to solve everything.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
If there is companion rules needed, that would be your purview to do that. And I guess I should add, some of this content came from minutes of this meeting.
Yeah. Glad you said
That we
that.
were referring back to minutes of this group to decide how to rule on issues. And we were like, we can't hardly find this rule. We need to put it someplace where people can. So, that was current practice that this group created.
Yeah, when I was working on the early versions of this, I had the election commission's pronouncements and the charter.
Mhm.
Then I had all the state statutes and stuff, but it was all coming in. So,
Under charter, you guys make the rules and regulations.
Yeah, as a citizen of Inglewood and trying to look at all of this and all the different sections of Inglewood Charter and Municipal Code and state before, this is a very much appreciated effort that's gone on. I also was hoping that there was that plain language review that occurs at the beginning of the petitions process, so I'm glad to see that that's been incorporated as part of the title setting and the language that's being put out there for the ballot questions.
So what are you looking for? A proposal to accept as written or as modified? How do we phrase this?
Well,
certainly an endorsement conceptually, but I'm going to defer to the city attorney on what you need from this first.
so I think what I'm looking for is a recommendation that we can pass along to city council, that you have reviewed and recommend that city council consider these regulations. Or if you'd like to see some changes, this would be the time to give those as well.
As a layman, I'm not sure I would feel qualified to adjust your expertise. So seeing that, I would propose that we take this as written to city council for approval.
I second.
Do we need a formal motion for that?
I don't think it hurts anything, so we will treat that as a formal motion.
Okay.
Is that all right with you?
So
Have a
all in
second.
favor?
Aye.
Landslide. Wow.
Overwhelming.
Because I'm new on this commission, is it sort of, do you ask us to come to the council meetings? Do you ask, is that sort of expected? How can we sort of support you in this process?
Well, from what I can tell, this commission has never actually done anything like this.
Okay.
So I don't think we need you there. You're always welcome to attend. It's open, and I'm sure council would welcome your input. But as far as I'm concerned, we'll just let council know that you did look at it. You recommend they consider it as written, and I think that's all we need.
Then can I make a motion to adjourn?
Is
We
there
just have
more?
one more at least discussion item. The orientation at the end, really, I think that's just, I mean, I provided you the materials that you're gonna need. We are here as a resource for you if like you're questioning things. Getting your oath was really important. The one big thing is just an announcement that that we are running a special election to fill a District 1 vacancy. Per charter, council is asked within 30 days to appoint somebody to fill that vacancy. We did go through the whole appointment process and they were not able to come up with a supermajority vote to do so. So we do have 2 candidates who are running for the seat, and that election will be held on April 7th. So it's really just a notification to you all that there is a special election happening. Arapahoe County was unable to assist us with that, so we are working with an election administrator vendor who will be doing that. So I have certified the ballot, and that's kind of all in motion at this time. So there's a webpage with all the information, but just wanted to make sure you were all aware of that. So
Is that going to be a mail-in ballot only?
yes. Yes, and we are working to contract with Arapahoe County to have our 24-hour ballot box available and open to residents. So people can mail them in, they can drop them in that drop box, but the vendor is located in Greenwood Village. So if people need to take it, it's not right here in Inglewood. So we have a communication plan going out to all of District 1 voters.
Are there any drop boxes in District 1 that aren't?
We only have 2 in the city. One is here at Civic Center, and the other one is located down in
Public health.
District 4, like at the Tri-County Health
Yeah,
Department.
okay. I wasn't sure if there was one in one here.
What's your election cost gonna be for District 1?
The estimate is 30 to 40,000.
Jeez, okay. Because they couldn't get a 2/3 vote. I'm just editorializing. Wow, that's an
Don't sow
expensive.
dissent.
Yeah, that's a pretty expensive failure to get 2/3,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
nobody asked my opinion.
Yeah, and that was a citizen-initiated charter amendment that said we had to have a 2/3 vote
Oh,
to fill council
okay.
vacancies. So it's the result of that.
Yeah.
Ching, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna,
Okay.
Yeah, you guys
you
can
want to
go.
get the
6
lawyer
minute
out
rule.
of here.
And-
Right.
And-
You're never $100.
See ya.
You're the chairman, but certainly the rest is really just, we've already touched on kind of the roles and responsibilities of you as the election commission. I've provided the charter for your review. Everything is also available digitally, and certainly any of the onboarding that you might need. The board and commission handbook is a really great resource for you, just to kind of as a board and commission. So any
Great.
other questions that you may have?
Do you need any support with the upcoming special? Like, is there anything that we need to do or support you,
Nothing at
other
this
than
time.
good energy?
No, yeah, it's good energy, thank you. We ran into a lot of campaign finance complaints that were filed this last election, and that really kind of took us off guard. And so we've really kind of geared up and we're equipping ourselves. We're going to create some, strong parameters around that. We do have it in our code, but that would be the only thing that I think would be coming up. But yeah, it's not anything that we would need election commission to weigh in on. So yeah, thank you.
I guess I motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Good work.
Is the commission just 4 people?